shall we introduce ourselves?
Yes, I'll put my card out on the table.
Okay.
So, shall I start?
Yes.
My name's Hanney. I'm with WigglyAmps. We've been involved in patient-facing services for a very long time. I think you're mostly EMIS, aren't you, in this world, this part of the world? So probably some of you have experience with our touch screens. Yeah. And also little green button, and also we had, I think you have one, don't you? Yes, a little green button, and also we had a workflow product around for many years called Encompass. Don't know if that rings any bells, which would work with EMIS. So we have been involved in that world for a very long time, and we're particularly involved in the whole patient-facing services initiative being driven by NHS England and NHS Digital, and we're part of the GP SOC framework. So we are currently working with all the clinical providers, clinical systems providers within that framework. So the first tranche of work of that is making their online services more broadly available. So people like ourselves and Evergreen and iPlato can offer access to those online services. We've been working in the first instance with TPP, purely and simply because TPP are the most difficult people to work with. But we're moving on to EMIS now, and also Vision, that's in the pipeline. Both of those over the summer. But specifically what we're looking at here is our online consultation system, which we call Engage Consult. Actually, probably before I actually show it, I wonder if I can just go through a quick overview presentation I've put together. It might be useful to use that to frame some of those remarks.
During the session,
yeah.
Can I gain clarity on what product is in the GP SOC, not one?
Yes, it is Engage Consult itself.
In the lot one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The importance of that being that all three CCGs currently underspend on their GP SOC lot one allocation.
Yeah.
So if we needed to...
So if it was that under lot one, then you can get it by lot one, as long as that is within the allocation. I think you're only spending about 59% of your allocation across the three CCGs. So there's leeway in there. My thinking being, just on the fly, is that if the specification nationally is months off, GP SOC Lot 1 contract is currently in place until December 2018, you may be able to get a solution for at least that term under GP SOC.
I want to check something. I'm going to go to the end of this.
Would there be the same issue as the one that you just did regards to the ongoing costs to practices?
No, Lot 1 covers it.
Right. Okay.
That's why I want to be clear what product set is in Lot 1, because that is centrally funded. Lot 2 systems you can buy without going for procurement exercise, but you have to pay for them. So you avoid some things in Lot 2 and 3.
I've got a horrible feeling it is Lot 2. I'm really
That's
sorry.
right.
I'm really sorry about that.
Did you see how excited you were?
I'm really sorry about that.
That's why I want to be clear.
Yes,
Yeah. Well, that's okay. We now know though that there's an underspend not well. So we can work at cunning plans.
Maybe we should share that with us, Alan.
Yes.
That's been shared for a long time.
What else is available in Lot 1?
Exactly.
A whole list of things.
Yeah.
So this meeting will have it's more and more.
Well, you've done something useful. not about Engage Consult. But yes, it is Lot. I'm sorry, it is Lot 2. I just had a bit of my brain phase then. I'm not going to stay long on this because a lot of these are self-evident. The principles we see them is obviously it has to be remote. And it was supporting a range of devices, so which it does. Engage Consult is a web application, so it naturally optimises to any device that a patient may use. asynchronous of course, structure, so the information that is provided by the patient who comes into the surgery is really well structured and isn't in the form of free text. Workflow, we think workflow is really important because it allows a practice to move an online consultation request to the most appropriate clinician. There is this thing, I don't know if your receptionist come back, but we've heard a lot of this, that if you have a strong protocol in place, and it may be that if you've got a sore throat, the reception will say, well, we'll get the nurse to call you back, and that can often cause conflict because the request has been for the doctor in the first instance. But if you have workflow and you can move a request to the practice nurse, and the practice nurse calls and says, we've reviewed your online consultation request and I'm calling you, that's an entirely different relationship. It reframes the relationship. So we think workflow is really important. Integration, we think it's really important that these tools work as closely as possible with the clinical system. And it's scalable and adaptable, that you have a single solution that, rather than it just simply being a surgery-based solution alone, can work across a range of scales. So it could be a federation-wide solution or a CCG-wide or even a SDP-wide solution. But how will it actually help you? These are the key ways in which we believe it works. That it improves this triage quality and efficiency. You've got very well-structured information in front of you. The doctor doesn't necessarily have to either call the patient in or ring them back. Those requests, and that can follow a strong protocol, can be moved to the most appropriate clinician before further contact with the patient. And we know, the work I've done previously on telephone-based consulting certainly confirms to me that really up to 60% of daily consultation requests don't require a face-to-face consultation. That used to be a statistic that was often questioned, but I don't think many people would question that nowadays. So the question is how do you identify those requests that don't require a face-to-face consultation? And that's where we see the power of this tool. And it transfers demand away from telephones to the online channel. If it's additional demand, it's only additional demand because a practice chooses to treat it as additional demand. And by that I mean, if a practice continues to say, right, what we do is face-to-face consultations, we will fill up our appointments book and anything else will have to be treated as additional demand, that's what it will be. But if you structure yourself so that there is space to be responsive, because I genuinely believe the key to all of these tools, our tools, the other tools on the marketplace, frankly, is responsiveness. If you're not responsive, they're not going to give you any value. And by that I mean you probably need to be thinking about getting back to people on the day or within hours. If you do, people use them, and then you'll start getting the efficiency gain. But I think more importantly, it does actually, you get some value out of your patients who want to be productive on your behalf. And that there are a lot of them out there. So it allows them to sort of help you if you let them. So broadly, this is the system overview. There are three elements to Engage Consult. There's the piece we actually call Engage Consult, which is the patient-facing web application. WigglyAmps, which is the control centre at the heart of the system. People who've got touch screens and other WigglyAmps products like Little Green Button or even our Friends and Family Test will be very familiar with this. It's a centralised control platform from where you can configure the whole system. And then there's Encompass LT, which is actually based on Encompass, and that is our web-based workflow tool. So each of these elements is very robust and has been around for a very long time. Engage Consult is driven by instant medical history. That's been around for a very long time, over 20 years, and it's been in the UK for, well, the first implementation of instant medical history in the UK goes back about 8 years now. And certainly we have got we've got about over 40,000 consultations because WigglyAmps actually hosts instant medical history. So that's a very robust and well understood product. The WigglyAmps console has been around for a very long time, and Encompass LT is based on Encompass, but it's a web-based realisation of that. So, yeah, you can ask questions whenever, yeah, please do.
You can go back one slide.
Yeah, sure.
That picture. So on the Engage Consult, are you capturing patient details in there?
Yes.
So you don't host that, we would have to host that locally, that solution?
It's hosted on a secure platform, so it's assured. It's on the UK cloud, so it's a fully assured platform for hosting patient identifiable information.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, yeah. No, we are, from that point of view, we are completely in line with all requirements from NHS England in terms of information governance and IT. We scored over 90% on the IG toolkit, for instance, quite recently, and we've very recently been audited by NHS Digital about 3 or 4 months ago. So from that point of view, we've been given a clean bill of health in terms of our management of data.
So going to the other end of the
Yeah.
program there, Encompass LT, would that be an additional app that the users would have on their screen as well, if they're EMIS web and...
Yeah, it will be, and at the moment there's no getting away from the fact that it will require a separate login, but where we're heading to on our trajectory, and probably by the end of the summer, we'll have associated login. So when you log into your EMIS web or your System 1, you will automatically be logged into the workflow screen. I mean, in the long run, where we want to go with this is we want to be able to inject the consultation, online consultation reports directly into the workflow of all the clinical systems, or even in DocMan. We're currently talking to DocMan about that, and they're very up for that, because they have a workflow, obviously, particularly EMIS web users who use this a lot. So we're not actually that kind of precious about this. We recognise workflow is important. What we're not suggesting in the long run that it has to be ours. So we'd like to be able to add the EMIS web workflow and DocMan to the list, so that you go into your WigglyAmps and you can choose what delivery mechanism, workflow platform you want to use. When will we get there? I can't give you a date on that, because that's going to be a lot to do with EMIS as well. But frankly, EMIS are much more open to partner working, and Vision are as well than System 1. So we don't really anticipate there's going to be any issues with that. As you know, if you go onto any EMIS web system, you log into system controls, you can see all the partner APIs. I mean, they're great at that from that point of view. And currently, the API we use is an existing one. We will have the full GP SUP one, again, probably by the end of the summer, but we're currently happily functioning with pre-existing APIs that we have from Compass. So we expect to get there, but precisely when, I don't know. But so yeah, I can't resile from the fact that currently you do have a separate web-based platform, but it's not additional software that the surgery has to load. It's a secure web-based platform.
Can I also ask a quick question? Just a bit more about instant medical history. What exactly is that? Because you mentioned that Ask My GP have dropped that.
Yes, they've dropped that now, yeah.
So I just need to understand, I'm a bit naive what instant medical history is.
Yeah.
It sounds obvious what it is, but...
It's a huge database which grows every year, which works on branch logic.
Right.
So it's an expert system, effectively. So it's been built by clinicians over many years, mostly in the United States, but not solely, but mostly in the United States.
So it's a central database that all the clinical systems feed back into? Is it, sorry?
Well, instant medical history, the clinical systems don't integrate at this point. We integrate our reports. So there's no direct integration from...
Is it a third-party tool then, instant medical history? Is it?
Yeah.
So is it a tool? Is it a term we're talking?
I see, it's a tool, yes. It's a database application, which we host in the UK on an assured platform.
Oh, so it's a WigglyAmps.
Yeah, we license it from the States. So we are the only only European licensed hoster.
So Ask My GP were using that.
Yes, they were. Yeah. Well, we co-developed Ask My GP.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I told the guys.
Yeah.
So because they've released version 2 now.
Yes, which is just a text-based.
You told me that they've now dropped the instant medical history.
Yeah.
So why have they done that? I know you probably.
It's sensitive, but I mean we work very closely with Ask My GP, with Harry, for a long time. I mean, in fact, I used to work directly with Harry in GP Access, and the difference in philosophy is that Harry was very focused on demand-led, whereas WigglyAmps were very much more focused on working within, if you like, the digital envelope, because that's where they already were at with their work within the GP Systems of Choice framework. Harry's view was just get people using it. If they're working in a demand-led environment, they'll get real benefit out of it. Integration's secondary, it's not that important. That's Harry's view, and that's fine. WigglyAmps had a different view. What we originally, yes, we absolutely wanted just to have one product. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. But myself and another colleague who also moved over from GP Access to WigglyAmps at the turn of the year, we tried on many occasions to try and bridge this gap, but it was just unbridgeable. The philosophies were too different, the two principals couldn't really agree on how they wanted to take it forward and who would sort of be, well, let's be honest, in the driving seat. So eventually there was a decision to go separate ways. My view at that point was I felt integration was going to be critical. Because I did a lot of engagements. So, for instance, I personally, Glenn Griffiths, who also came with me, I was responsible for setting up a lot of Ask My GP trials. And one of the problems we had all the time was, well, it's clunky. How do this whole thing about how to go to my email, have to open up a PDF, and people said it was a very limiting part of it. They very often said patients loved it, and patient approval was high. But the problem often was it's just hard to manage within the practice. So reluctantly, I felt, well, in the longer run, obviously integration, even though it's more painstaking, it's more time-consuming, you're working with people who are not necessarily open to the idea of creating essentially, possibly potentially competitive products, and therefore it can be a very frustrating process. But in the long run, it had to be the case that if people are going to use these tools, integration is inevitable. It's got to happen.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you mentioned from the US.
Yeah.
What bothers me there is that historically, on the GPO our service from previous NHS structures, that invested in the McKesson triage system from the US, and what failed that implementation was the technology. Was it UK based? And the horrendous task to return thousands of returns into the UK.
Oh, but that's been
medications were named
absolutely.
In the US and not the UK, and all that sort of
It's
thing.
been going on for years.
So that's what bothers me is.
No, but we've been doing that for years.
Okay.
It first came to England almost, UK and Europe almost 10 years ago now. Richard Sills, who was a GP, brought it over, and that's an ongoing piece of work. I mean, it's broadly done. Most of it's done. You occasionally get irritating things like I think, for instance, on mobility questionnaires, you occasionally still get references to how far can you walk, how many blocks can you walk, for instance, and things like that. But it's the amount of terminology that just would baffle your average Brit is really minimal now. I mean, it has been a major ongoing piece of work. So our version of it is not the same version as used in the States. It's hosted over here.
I was conscious of that.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
It's been a
project in the past.
It's been a long-term process. Long-term process. So effectively, it's a huge expert system. So they're not flat file questionnaires. So say sore throat. The questions you will get asked will be dictated by your answers. So if your answers are pointing towards this is no more than a simple viral sore throat, that's the questionnaire you'll get provided with. If, however, your answers suggest it's bacterial, for example, what's that one called? The Sentinel Modified Sentinel Score. You'll go down a track that will ask questions which will then be outputted to the surgery as a kind of percentage likelihood of this being bacterial. Or indeed, we've got all the key standard instruments and scales there. So, for instance, an example would be if you're doing the back pain questionnaire, you will be asked about your mood. If your answers suggest that you're anxious or depressed, which is often associated with back pain, you'll actually go down a questionnaire that will explore that as well, and it will be outputted in a PHQ-9 score. So there's no flat file questionnaire. The questions you'll get will depend on your answers.
Does it pick up on anything that's existing within your clinical record? For example, I don't know, but if you were asthmatic and had been to the surgery 2 or 3 times that week or that month or whatever, is it that intuitive, or is nothing that intuitive? I don't understand.
No, I know what you mean. Would we could, but that's just...
So that would still be reliant then on
yes.
whoever it is in practice,
yes.
looking at whoever's had that online.
Exactly, yeah. What we don't do, well, 2 reasons, because you can't, and it wouldn't be helpful to do it anyway. It doesn't just stick it straight into the record, because it's patient-entered data. I mean, I think in time, that sort of integration with tools will happen, but it's just not happening yet. You know, I mean, I'll be honest, in many ways, you know, these I think, you know, even what we have will, in 10 years' time, will look almost laughably, you know, primitive, if I'm really honest, you know, and because you need that. Actually, what you really need is an intelligent conversation between what a patient is saying to you now and what's already in their record, but nobody's near that yet. But that's the goal. I mean, ultimately, that's where you want to, everybody realises that's where you want to go. I mean, I know some of the AI people are beginning to look at how do you kind of, you know, close that circle, how do you reach in to the clinical system database and create some sort of meaningful conversation between what the patient's telling you now and what they've told you in the past, but it's a long way off, yeah. I'd love to say otherwise, but you know, I think that's probably a few years away. So, am I going the right way? Yes, so this is just a quick schematic about how it integrates with clinical systems. So this is the patient vouching. So currently what you do, I could probably show you this, but I've just got very little signal and you don't have a Wi-Fi. And I've been testing it outside. It does just about work, but it's kind of, you know, so that's why I thought I'd better show you on here. So this is coming into the Encompass LT workflow. You click on the patient's name in the report. It gives their information. Because at this point, it's just like a phone call. You don't really know who that person is. Now, in about, in less than a month now, in fact probably 3 weeks' time, we will have a proper vouching module. Currently what you need to do is just toggle between your EMIS web database, taking that information, checking the number, and you put the number as their identifier into that field there and click save. So that is currently a manual process.
That's their EMIS number, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So once you've satisfied yourself that this person is the person in the database who conforms to that, at the moment this is an entirely manual process, but in less than a month's time what will happen is when you click on the name, you'll be given a range of options. So let's say there are 2 John Smiths with the same birth date. You'll be given several of options, or more importantly, if it comes up, this isn't the person in our database because something has been mistyped or misspelt, or they've got their date of birth wrong, it happens. It will say, we can't find this patient, loosen the search criteria, see if you can identify them. So you can go both ways. You can narrow down from multiples, or if there's nobody, you can loosen the search criteria and pick the one. You will then be asked explicitly how you've decided to vouch for that patient. So there will be options that I know that person because I know their voice, or I've called them back, or they've arrived with documentation. There will be a range of options that you can tick. So there will be an audit trail about how you've decided that that person who's contacted you online is the person they say they are. Because quite obviously, if it's sort of drive-by, lazy login, I'm a patient, I haven't yet registered for online, I'm not a registered online service user, but I want to use this, which we've got to do, otherwise if we limit it to just registered online service use at the moment, these tools are never going to get off the ground. So we have to have a fairly kind of fireproof way of vouching for who that person is. I was talking to a practice a couple of weeks ago, and I said, well, how do you do it? Like, to a group of clinicians, how do you do it then? You know, you've got a message to call somebody, they do a lot of telephone consulting. How do you know that is the patient? And they all kind of looked at each other and smiled and said, oh, you know, often in a way we just take it on trust.
Right.
So we recognise, because we're providing a solution, we can't quite work on that. We've got to give some more structure to that. So what we will do is, you know, be it a receptionist, be it a practice nurse or a GP, if it's that person who's saying, I'm taking responsibility for identifying this patient, they will need to identify the route they've chosen. Now, we're not being prescriptive. We're not saying, if you haven't done this, you can't do it. But by putting those options in place, we're just, in a way, sort of reminding people that, there is a responsibility here that if you're going to commit something to a record, which is the key thing, you've got to be pretty sure you know who it is. You know.
And of course, that's just a one-off, isn't it? If that patient goes back through the system,
Yeah.
you've done that link, and you know it's the same patient.
Exactly. Well, what they can do is they can sign up for an Engage Consult account. So once they've been vouched and they've signed up, they don't have to be vouched again. But again, it's a bit like being a fully registered online service user. They will need to know their login details. But it just as you would if you're going to use your online service for prescription repeats and so forth. And we will also, we happily also just stick this behind a Rozu login as well. So, if you are a registered online service user, you can just go straight to this and it will know who you are. And the link will be made automatically. But most people in the first instance are going to be using it just as a sort of, a claimed ID. So you can click to open the record, and that will open the record in your EMIS web. You can attach then the consultation request, where it says send PDF to clinical. You get a message saying it's come up, it's completed. And I know this is not actually showing it in real life, but I just don't think I've got the signal to do it at the moment. It's attached to the thing. Now, where we're going at the moment, it just attaches it as a PDF, but again, definitely by the end of the summer, we will put some clinician entered data in there as well that can be coded.
So who's doing that? That's a clinician, because surely that could be a sensitive piece of information that you wouldn't want just a normal data handler to be able to see.
Oh, you mean like a diagnosis?
No. The process there of
that attaching it to the record?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, if it's a receptionist or whatever, an admin role, would you, I don't know, it works in GP practice, would you want a receptionist to be able to see an online consultation? I'll do that. I was about to say it's not role based.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is, I mean, you're right to bring that up. And we have talked about whether or not actually what we just show is the header to the receptionist, which gives the details. And maybe just the chief complaint rather than the full report.
Right.
And that's quite doable. I mean, certainly if people say to us, that's what we want to happen, we'll do it. That's it's what we're not trying to sell is something like completely shrink wrapped. We recognise people are going to have different working protocols around the country, and if you say to us, we only want clinicians to be able to see the full report, then we can do that. I mean, technically it's fiddly, but not overwhelmingly difficult. So this is the Encompass LT secure based workflow. So we've got a modified browser, so you don't have to download more software. So it's a modified browser, modified on, I think, IE8. The purpose of this is to actually land the online requests rather than it going into an email as a PDF and then it has to be opened. So you can read it without having to open the PDF. It's there. It's the structured information is in there. But this is just showing the sort of workflow layer. So you have groups that you can define. So you can have functional groups that make sense of how you want to operate this. You know, practice nurses, receptionists, GPs. You choose all of these things. You choose yourself. You define all of these elements yourself in the WigglyAmps console. So you default the landing point, so incoming requests. That might be, well, it is monitored usually where we're trialing it at the moment by a receptionist, and then they can just move it on to any one of the colleagues, and colleagues or groups, in fact, and you can cover for any group or colleague. So if people are not around, you can see the messages coming into them. You can take messages if you know a colleague is, if you're covering for them and you know they're not available. So there's a lot of flexibility around that. And I mean, that's me. I'm logged into this practice. But if you are an Encompass LT user, you can be logged into multiple practices. So currently I'm also logged into all our trial practices at the moment. So that's a way in which, and you can choose which, you choose, you log in as yourself and then you choose which of the organisations that you've been invited to be a part of are you logging into. So I'll talk more about that because we're thinking about multi-site working.
Well, this is where we had that conversation with the Federation for the extended hours service, that you could provide a service.
Can I ask? Because there was a discussion around this at the last structural board meeting, and one of the key things coming out of that was the user base. If you remember, James, around who was using. Yeah. Because the majority of our practices aren't sat in the middle of the city. So our estate is quite different to the central Birmingham, for example. So I don't know if you've got any stats from your customer base in what your take-up is in practices in various geographical environments. So sure. To understand what a practice in the town is going to get to what Breedon Hill's going to get, sat in the middle of nowhere.
Sure. Back connectivity?
In terms of the take-up of the...
the take-up, sorry.
Because what some of the previous talks were, you know, if you've got a practice next to a university, then the majority of people walking past are geared up with a mobile phone, they live and breathe online, and they're going to jump on this like anything. Whereas, you know, if we go to Wombersley, where the population is elderly retired or business level commuters, who's going to be interested? You know, some or none.
Sure.
So it's trying to understand what the potential take-up would be across our estate, because that might inform the level of role in the practice that will deal with this. Because for some practices, it might be an hour a day. For other practices, it might be that there's, you know, a big task.
I suppose, you know, socio-economic factors would be a huge contributory factor there too, wouldn't they, or driver. So I know you're using the rurals as an example, but there, let's be honest, you know, they're largely affluent, middle class, might have accessibility problems there, but you can bet your life they're on the internet and using their iPads. I guess too, what we've got to remember is that the huge driver behind this, regardless of location, and this is where there is a role for patient education, is that we haven't got enough GPs. We haven't got the workforce, and this is a way of releasing capacity. So that 30% that you're quoting becomes critically important to practices remaining sustainable, because that's freeing up GP time, and I think that's an important selling point. That's why there's national funding, and that's why we would want 100% take up of all practices, because all practices are struggling right now.
Well, I can talk around that. I mean, obviously Engage Consult is a new product in itself, because we just put together these three elements relatively recently. So Engage Consult base isn't big enough to give useful stats. So what I can do is, because I ran the Ask My GP trial in Gloucestershire, so I can talk around about that, because it's good points, and I know I can tell you exactly what the take-up is, and it was between, at the lowest, 0.2% of all demand per week to 0.9% of all demand per week. And that sounds paltry, and frankly it was. And interestingly, I had a relationship with Kernat down in Cornwall, who were doing a similar trial for WebGP, and we thought, well, it'd be useful to share the data, and if anything, their uptake was even worse. Now, you think, why is that? Is it because they're rural?
What was the trial period?
We were there for from almost a year, from minimum 6 months to almost a year. Yeah, so they rolled out over a period of time. I mean, you know what it's like trying to get GPs to do anything. You've got to kind of let's go live by date, and that's just a point at which you start negotiating, really, isn't it? So the earliest sort of started in about very early February 2016. The latest, I think, got round to it eventually, sort of August 2016, early August 2016, and we kind of reviewed right at the end of December 2016. So what we found, what really, really mattered, and this is, it's like how you see it as a practice. So if you see it as extra work, and you put no guaranteed responsiveness in place, people won't use it, because they'll think, well, actually, if it's better for me to call you, if I want a response, I'll just call you. Now, contrast that with, I was also involved with the, we didn't do many, but we'd started doing rollout in Northern Ireland. Now, it was quite interesting, quite a lot of that, some of that would be very, obviously urban, Belfast, Londonderry, but quite a lot of it was fairly rural. Now, the plan there was to make them go demand-led first, so they were being moved towards telephone consulting, because there was quite a lot of telephone consulting going on in Northern Ireland anyway, because they have chronic shortage of GPs. I think it's the worst in the UK. So that was something they already quite a lot of people were doing. So we got involved to just try and promote that further and to try and get more practices doing telephone consulting. And then, when that was in place, we were putting in Ask My GP. Now, that's completely different. There, they were getting up to 20%. I think the best performing was about 20%. But certainly, plus 10% was easily achievable. Now, if you think 10% of all your demand is now coming through the online channel, and you're going to save about, well, I think it's probably at least 30% of time spent. So it's 30% of 10%. All right. Again, it doesn't sound like it's world-beating. But when I say 10%, that was just a start. I left Ask My GP, GP Access by then, so I don't know where it is now. But I know the best performing practice there was doing about 20% in 2016. But it's because they were being responsive, because they were already doing telephone consulting, i.e. you call us in, we'll call you back, have a chat with you. If you need to see a GP, you'll come in today, but actually 50 to 60% of the time, I'm just going to give you advice, or I'm going to hand you over to the nurse. If you're responsive, people use it. If you're not, they won't. And actually, demographics of rural versus urban are relatively unimportant in respect when compared to how you operationalise it.
And how did you advertise it to patients?
Leaflets, posters, but the most important thing is messaging on the phone.
Pointing us about trial periods, so they're actually aware of.
Yeah, messaging on the phone, critical.
Messaging on the phone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you can do that, if you've got that set up, messaging on the phone. And we did a proof of concept back in 2015 with a practice. You mentioned commuters, it's quite interesting. There's a place in South Woodford, which is a kind of commuter village, not too far from the M11. Most people go into the city. In 2014-15, they had a GP there called Ed Diggins, who was the head of access for Barkinghaven and Redbridge CCG. He was ferocious about this stuff. He really passionately believed in it. And at one point, they had nearly 40% of their, about 38% of their weekly demand going through the online channel, because actually that commuter base, largely young to middle-aged, in work, going to the city, they liked it, they loved it. The idea you just pop a thing in, you know, you get a call back later in the day, drop into the surgery on the way home if you wanted to. It worked really, really well. The problem there was the lack of integration. So the reception team was run ragged, running between the email inbox and having these things, and it became unmanageable. And in the end, they decided they didn't want to continue with it because of that. So that was another, that was part of the thinking behind why integration is so important. But you'll find lots of people out there, I mean, it's not for everybody, I know it shouldn't happen, it doesn't need to be. But if you can find a way of getting those people off the phones who quite happily communicate online, two things happen, is that obviously they're happy, they're getting better information in front of the GP, but actually then people who want to use the phones aren't having such a long wait. So paradoxically, if you do say, right, I'm going to respond to the digital channel, everybody will benefit from that. But it's a kind of big ask, because most people's response to that is you can't privilege one channel over the other. If you do, everybody benefits.
There are multiple synergistic opportunities here.
Yeah.
That, you know, rather than looking at it as it's online consultation system,
Yeah.
And that's where the thinking stops. It is those added benefits that it creates, both for patients and practices, that I think we need to be reticent of to, you know, especially the ICT strategy board needs to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Understand
that. And it's an ongoing thing. Like I said, this isn't a shrink wrap product. We don't see it like that. We just see it as an ongoing. And I'll talk about some of the things around where we're going quite soon. Certainly before the end of this year, around about that. So that's just a quick summary.
So is it possible to get, is it possible to have a target uptake figure that deems success of the product delivery? Would that be 10% of demand moves to online? Is that deemed successful?
The proof of concept is there. This is why there's national funding for this. So again, we're going to use that national funding to get the best product, to release the capacity that the evidence base has proven elsewhere. And I'm sure we will put a local metric in place to make sure that it is delivering to that, and what additional steps we might need to take to maximise it.
I think it's good to have that target, then we can do the promotion and support to try and achieve identified target.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got to maximise it, haven't we? Because of that releasing capacity that it's grown. If nothing else, if that were the only reason for doing it, then that's a really key.
I mean, I've created a tool to sort of show what time savings are possible, and I think I've been very conservative in that. I can make that available. I mean, one of the problems is that I know you'll get this, is people think, this is something else I've got to do, rather than thinking, if I do this, I won't have to do something else. And it's just a mindset thing that, you know, I think we all know, both admin and clinical staff at practice, they do have this sort of sense of beleagueredness, which is, why do you keep asking me to do something else, you know, when we can't even do what we're meant to be doing now. And it's hard to overcome. I mean, you know, our view is that we are really happy to just, you know, offer this out for a trial, minimum period of 13 weeks, completely no strings. Longer if you need it. But, you know, we see this as a long-term venture. And what we have now is just on the path. And we're not, you know, we're not trying to get hold of your money now. You know, I know the Forward View Fund. Try it first. Try it for at least a quarter. If you need longer, fine. Prove its value to yourselves first. We think it's there. We do think the value is
for
there.
that 13-week trial, do you also advise the practice, you know, how to roll it out, how to engage with the patients, how to manage it within the practice?
Yeah.
It's all part of that.
Yeah, exactly. We try and create a sort of hub of learning within CCG. So we have 2 or 3 practices who are going to pioneer it for you. We work really closely with them to think about how to roll, and that's all included. You know, that's understood. I mean, you know, the thing is, any intervention's got to be sustainable. You know, you can't just fire and forget. It's just pointless. I mean, people won't use it. You've got to stay close. You've got to prove the case. And you've got to get local champions, haven't you? I mean, if you don't, forget about it. It's a waste of time. Do something else. And that whole thing about, and it was very frustrating at times. You know, trying to get people to be responsive. You know, because that's ultimately, no system is going to take away your responsibility to make the best use of it. Nothing's that good, you know. So these are the things we're working on currently. And like I said, easily before the end of the year. That's 2 or 3 weeks away now. That by the end of the year. That by the end of the year, if not by the end of the summer. That by the end of the summer. So the idea there is, if you want to go back to them using an online channel rather than using email, which is completely insecure, you use an email to get a message to them, but they'd have to log into their account to pick up a confidential message. And we're working on this, and hopefully, this isn't difficult. This is all about your business rules. How do you want to hand over? You know, what is it that you want from something that's going to work with several different organisations? How do you want to characterise that? How can the technology for that? I mean, because you know, I have multiple logins to different organisations that are using Engage Consult. That's not a problem. The problem is making sure that it's working in a way that satisfies your own kind of business rules about handover between extended hours, you know, in-service hours, extended hours, and out of hours. So that's a bit of a more removable piece. The technology is not difficult, but just realising that you need it to be realised, you know, that we'd have to work with you to do that. You know, so there's a bit of kind of give and take on that. Coded entries in journal alongside attachments. So that might be just pulling out the first complaint in the natural language query used by the patient, or we might just put in a diagnosis field in the workflow that gets attached, which rather than being attached as part of a PDF, gets put directly. I mean, that's doable now from the API. Certainly we know it is in EMIS. That's doable now. We're just trying to decide which way it is. And the other, finally, screen notifications, which again, we should probably have that we will have that before the end of the year, not probably. So rather than having to remember to monitor, you'll just get a screen message that says, you know, new report submitted.
The third item would be smartphones. Authentication, would that be NHS smartphones?
This at the moment, the two-factor authentication, not via smart card at the moment, no. No, so that would be just so that if, say, clinicians want to work from home, they could still make use of the system. They could still interact with their clinical system if they have, I guess, if they have a virtual private network link with their.
Desktop elements of the future, I guess, around that.
No, they just remote to their practice and leave a smart card plugged in their practice.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to leave a smart card.
Yeah.
But again, that's more business rules rather than
Yeah,
technically challenging. It's more how do you want to do it? What's going to satisfy your information governance needs? So this is where we're on for the forward view. We know, well, I certainly know from doing the Prime Minister's Challenge Fund that there's a kind of footprint-wide, you know, capitated budget, but it never works out like that. You know, the rollout can be impossibly so. So we've just said, look, there's a 29p for registered patient per annum price for each practice, but actually our minimum contractual period is only 6 months actually. So even if you know signed up and you're paying as if after 6 months, that's it, you don't want it, that's fine. You know, you're not going to be penalised on that.
How would the pricing work if you were doing it through like an extended hours service?
Don't know yet. It'll reflect that though, because we haven't done one yet. So
so
it's almost impossible to know. But it would be there or thereabout. So for instance, I mean, we would think.
Well, the federation seat.
Yeah. We've negotiated.
We've got data sharing with 32 GP practices,
yeah.
but we haven't got any registered patients.
Yeah, they have, yeah. Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Well, the first two practices have got 302,000
Well, what we would do, if we're going to work it like that, a sort of federation-wide model, it would be broadly reflective of that. But for instance, so if it was the forward view pricing, say bizarrely, if you decided we're going to do, all our practices are going to use this, we would do it within that budget, which I think is 25.8 pence, is that right?
Yeah.
Per annum? Yeah, we do it within that. Similarly, if we're going to do a slightly different model, which was federation-wide, where, if you like, the federation was the fund holder rather than, disseminated out to each individual practice, this would be reflective of whatever price we negotiated. So it's suddenly not going to go up, soaring up from that just because it's a federation. I mean, it's not in our interests to make this unavailable because of price. So we're going to be there or thereabouts, but that would be subject to a negotiation. Okay. So, other questions?
One more question. I was just looking at the Lot 1 offerings, and you got on there patient transactional services in Lot 1.
Yes.
So maybe not here, but maybe if I were to do it now, is what benefit on top of what you've given us today.
Oh, right, yeah.
That service geared from Lot 1 to improve the quality of the overall deliverable.
Yeah, sure.
That would be my curiosity.
Okay, yeah.
But
So,
following this follow-up via email.
yeah,
To us
definitely.
on that one,
Yeah.
because as I say, we don't use a lot on funds. There are some services like a lot more. So what value add would we get by adding that onto this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm not an expert on the Lot 1 offering, but I'm put in contact with John Whitty, who's R&D, sort of can talk for a very long time on all of that stuff. So, for instance, one of the things we do have, we've got what we call the website plugin, which is our own access to patient-facing services. So, the idea being that it's the same front door, irrespective of what clinical systems are in use, and you can access the services offered by the clinical systems, but you could also access Engage and Consult. And the longer vision of that is we've been talking with NHS Digital about being able to provide login services and integration services for third-party applications, because it's a very time-consuming, very, very expensive process to do this. So we've already done it. So we can talk to clinical systems, we can read and write clinical systems. We can provide the login services into that environment, which are sort of in line with the information governance standards. So we're a kind of third-party provider of logins of access services to patient-facing services. So the idea being, therefore, that we become an assurer. That's where we're trying to get. That's the longer-term vision as well. So if somebody comes along, we had a conversation, for instance, last week. Somebody came to us. They've licensed a really great piece of home technology that provides sort of lab-level blood sugar monitoring for people with severe type 1 diabetes. But their problem is, it works really well, but how do we get that information to the practice in a way that is going to be used? So, our vision, this is sort of a long-term vision, is that we provide the login services. So if you are a severe diabetes sufferer, and this is something you need to do, and it's incredibly important to your management program, you can get that information into the clinical record via our, if you like, our middleware capability. So our plugin is, we don't brand it, it's a website plugin, so it's just your CCG, your federation, if you want to access all the patient-facing services, not just those offered by EMIS or System 1 or Vision, but others that you want available, you can log in via this, and there's no cost to that. It's called website plugin.
It's just a single entry.
Yeah.
The patient just
Well, it's entry at one level, but it's also connectivity at the other.
Yeah.
The clinical systems.
Mm.
So you don't pay for that. That's because we get payment from online transactional services directly from the centre.
Okay, just conscious of time
Yes, of
here.
course.
One question for me, then we'll see if anybody else has got any other questions, because we're due to end here at 1:45.
Okay, no problem.
Agenda. How long would implementation take on average in a practice? You know, we buy the system. How long does it take to get up and running with practice? Do you think?
Depends on their focus, but we've got people up and running within a week if they're committed. It's, you know, a lot comes down to the practice's appetite for change and to give something a go. But we've done it with it. Technically, it's not demanding because they're all web-based services.
Yeah.
It's the training is, I think, training and awareness is what really matters. But we can support that. You know, we've got a lot of experience of supporting that.
Do you offer training? Do you offer-
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, we definitely do that. Yes, no problem.
Any other questions?
Just that if we want to take you up on the 13-week trial,
Yes.
is it through you?
Yeah, come to me. Yeah. And we do have a memorandum of understanding, but all that really says is, please take this seriously. Effectively is all it was really asking you to do, is if you're going to do this, put something behind it.
What's the maximum number of sites you would trial?
In a CCG?
Yeah.
Maximum?
In county. Ben, I've got 3 CCGs.
Yeah, I'm quite relaxed about
I've got
that.
65 practices.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to try them all.
I was after a number.
I mean, you know, if you push me to a number, I'd happily say, you know, 7 to 10, or maybe, you know. We want you to, let's say, we want them to be reflective. I think the important thing is they're reflective of your estate.
Yeah.
And it, you know, so we'd work with you on that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank
you
you for
very
your
much.
time.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are the slides going to be available to us?
Oh yes, I'll send you all of those.
Thank you.
Yeah.